The Arab world stands at a crossroads in history, with a growing wave of unity that is reshaping the balance of power in the Middle East. For decades, Israel has maintained a position of regional dominance, backed by its military strength, advanced technology, intelligence networks, and close ties with Western powers, especially the United States. But recent developments show that the era of unquestioned Israeli superiority may be reaching its limits. Across the Arab world, from the Gulf to North Africa, there are signs of collective awakening, diplomatic realignment, and strategic cooperation that could challenge Israel's once unshakable position. This unfolding transformation raises the question that dominates headlines today. Could this be the beginning of the end of Israel's regional dominance? To understand the gravity of this moment, one must look back at the historical backdrop. Since its founding in 1948, Israel has faced hostility from its Arab neighbors, leading to a series of wars and conflicts that defined the Middle East throughout the 20th century. Despite being surrounded by adversaries, Israel managed not only to survive but also to thrive, due in part to its highly trained military, its strategy of preemptive strikes, and the crucial support it received from the West. Wars in 1948, 1967, and 1973 cemented Israel's reputation as a military powerhouse, capable of defeating coalitions of Arab armies. For much of the Arab world, those defeats created political fractures and disillusionment, leaving Israel to expand its influence across the region. But the 21st century is rewriting the story. While Israel has continued to rely on military superiority and intelligence dominance, the Arab world has been quietly building a different kind of power base. Gulf states have amassed vast wealth through energy exports, transforming themselves into influential players on the global stage. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar are not only economic powerhouses, but also diplomatic heavyweights, shaping international discourse through investments, media, and strategic partnerships. Meanwhile, North African states such as Egypt and Algeria are reasserting themselves as pivotal actors in Arab politics, while Iraq and Syria, despite internal challenges, are regaining strength and looking to reclaim their role in the regional order. The question of Palestine remains at the heart of this shifting landscape. For decades, the Palestinian cause has served as the emotional and political unifier for the Arab world, even as different states pursued divergent interests. Recent escalations in Gaza heightened violence in the West Bank, and the visible human cost of Israel's occupation have reignited popular support for Palestine, especially among Arab youth who see the struggle as symbolic of broader issues of justice, dignity, and independence. Social media has amplified these sentiments, creating a new kind of pan-Arab solidarity that transcends borders and governments. Images of destruction, civilian suffering, and defiance spread rapidly, fueling anger not only against Israel, but also against Arab governments perceived as complicit or inactive. One of the most striking aspects of this new unity is the emerging cooperation between Arab states that once had deep rivalries. Saudi Arabia and Iran, long seen as bitter enemies locked in a sectarian struggle for influence, have recently moved toward rapprochement, brokered in part by China. This thaw in relations has ripple effects across the Middle East, as it reduces divisions that Israel once exploited to maintain its strategic advantage. Arab governments, despite differences in ideology and governance, are finding common ground in the face of what they perceive as Israeli aggression and Western double standards. The calls for collective action are growing louder, ranging from coordinated diplomatic pressure to potential economic measures that could isolate Israel regionally. Economics is a powerful weapon in this new chapter. Arab states hold enormous leverage through their control of energy supplies, trade routes, and investment portfolios. The oil embargo of 1973 demonstrated the kind of pressure that can be applied when the Arab world acts collectively, and while today's global energy market is more complex, the principle remains the same. If Arab leaders choose to use their economic power in a targeted and unified manner, Israel could face unprecedented isolation. Already, boycotts, divestments, and sanctions campaigns are gaining traction among populations, putting pressure on governments to adopt harder stances. Israel's economy, while innovative and diversified, is still vulnerable to regional trade restrictions, energy dependency, and the potential withdrawal of investment from neighboring markets. Militarily, the balance is also shifting, albeit in a more subtle way. While Israel still possesses advanced weaponry, a powerful air force, and nuclear capabilities, Arab states have been investing heavily in modernizing their armed forces. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have acquired state-of-the-art systems, including advanced fighter jets, missile defense shields, and drone technology. Turkey, though not an Arab state, but a key regional player, has also introduced game-changing drone warfare technologies that have been shared with allied Arab governments. Resistance groups in Lebanon, Yemen, and Gaza have demonstrated that even asymmetrical warfare can challenge Israeli defenses, as drone swarms, precision missiles, and cyber attacks become tools of modern conflict. The days when Israel could expect a one-sided battlefield advantage are fading. Diplomatically, the Arab world is repositioning itself on the global stage. Relations with emerging powers such as China, Russia, and India are giving Arab states alternatives to reliance on the West, enabling them to pursue policies more independent of Washington's influence. China's role in mediating between Saudi Arabia and Iran signals a shift toward a multipolar world order in which Arab voices carry greater weight. Russia's involvement in Syria and its broader ties with Arab capitals demonstrate that the Middle East is no longer a playground dominated solely by the United States. This diversification of partnerships dilutes Israel's traditional advantage of having Washington as its unquestioned patron. As Arab governments expand their alliances, Israel finds itself increasingly isolated diplomatically, especially in forums such as the United Nations, where resolutions critical of Israeli policies continue to gain momentum. Public opinion across the Arab world is perhaps the most decisive factor in this transformation. While governments have often pursued pragmatic relations with Israel, including peace treaties and normalization agreements, popular sentiment remains overwhelmingly pro-Palestinian. Mass protests erupt in Cairo, Amman, Rabat, and other cities whenever tensions flare in Gaza or Jerusalem. These movements are not merely symbolic. They shape domestic politics and force governments to calculate the risks of being perceived as too close to Israel. The Arab street is no longer silent, and leaders know that ignoring the will of their populations could lead to political instability. This growing activism, powered by a new generation of connected vocal citizens, ensures that the Palestinian issue remains central to Arab identity and unity. The possibility of coordinated Arab action against Israel raises both hopes and fears. On one hand, unity could lead to meaningful pressure that forces Israel to reconsider its policies, paving the way for justice, peace, and coexistence. On the other hand, escalation could spiral into conflict, destabilizing the region and drawing in global powers. Israel is aware of these risks, and its leadership faces difficult choices. Maintaining a posture of military superiority and aggressive policies may no longer guarantee security, especially if Arab states coordinate across multiple fronts: economic, diplomatic, and military. At the same time, attempts to negotiate or compromise are complicated by domestic Israeli politics, where divisions between hardliners and moderates run deep. The role of the United States remains a critical variable. Washington has long been Israel's closest ally, providing military aid, diplomatic cover, and economic support. But America's focus is increasingly divided, with global competition against China and Russia taking precedence. Domestic debates in the U.S. also reveal cracks in the once unshakable bipartisan support for Israel. Younger Americans, progressive groups, and even some lawmakers are questioning the wisdom of unconditional support for Israeli policies, particularly in the face of human rights concerns. If U.S. backing weakens, even marginally, Israel could find itself dangerously exposed in a region where the Arab world is moving toward greater cohesion. Meanwhile, Arab leaders are sensing the historic opportunity before them. For years, fragmentation, rivalries, and foreign interventions prevented collective action. But now, the convergence of public opinion, shifting alliances, and global multipolarity is creating fertile ground for unity. The question is whether Arab governments will seize this moment decisively or squander it through hesitation and internal disagreements. The potential is enormous. A unified Arab front could reshape trade, influence energy markets, dictate diplomatic terms, and perhaps even impose a new security order in the Middle East. Such a transformation would mark a definitive end to Israel's regional dominance, ushering in an era where power is more balanced and accountability is demanded. Critics caution, however, that unity is easier to declare than to sustain. The Arab world remains diverse, with monarchies, republics, military states, and fragile democracies, each with its own priorities and constraints. The memories of past divisions, from the Gulf War to the Arab Spring, still loom large. Israel has historically benefited from exploiting these divisions, and it may yet find ways to prevent a durable Arab coalition from forming. Moreover, some Arab governments, particularly those that have pursued normalization agreements with Israel, face complex calculations about whether to maintain those ties or bow to public pressure. The interplay between pragmatic diplomacy and emotional solidarity will determine the path forward. Nonetheless, the momentum is undeniable. Regional summits, emergency meetings, and joint declarations are multiplying, all signaling a newfound seriousness in Arab cooperation. Media outlets across the Arab world are amplifying narratives of resistance, resilience, and unity, further shaping public consciousness. The symbolism of Arab leaders standing side by side in support of Palestine carries weight not only regionally but globally. It challenges Israel's narrative of inevitability and forces the international community to reconsider assumptions about Middle Eastern politics. In the end, the question is not whether Israel will disappear from the region. It will remain a state with significant military and technological capacities, but whether its dominance, its ability to dictate terms and shape outcomes unilaterally, is coming to an end. The Arab world, once divided and reactive, is showing signs of becoming proactive, coordinated, and assertive. That shift alone is enough to redefine the landscape of the Middle East. For Israel, this means adapting to a new reality where its actions face greater scrutiny, resistance, and consequences. For the Arab world, it means navigating the challenges of unity while balancing the aspirations of their people with the demands of global geopolitics. The future remains uncertain, but the direction is clear. The Arab world is uniting in ways that were once thought impossible, fueled by shared grievances, strategic opportunities, and a collective sense of destiny. Whether this leads to the end of Israel's regional dominance depends on the resolve, coordination, and vision of Arab leaders and peoples. But one thing is certain: the Middle East will never be the same again. The story is still being written, and the world is watching closely as history unfolds in real time, with profound implications for global peace, security, and justice.